what we can do. You need us. We don't need you. If you don't send our boy home, we will hurt you in ways you could never imagine. And that's what we're here to do.
You know, we have been invaded by illegals in the millions. We haven't put them in prisons. Very few of them, at any rate. We've given them jobs. We've given them welfare, and the military, the Mexican military, has been identified by sheriffs and border patrol agents as crossing into our territory, into our land.
Absolutely.
Many times.
And they're carrying machine guns. Real machine guns, not AR-15s that the mainstream media likes to call machine guns. These guys cross into our country carrying machine guns, which is illegal. How do I know this? Well, because I'm a Class 3 manufacturer. I know machine gun laws very, very well. I make machine guns. And it's very much illegal to have machine guns in our country. Should it be? Well, that's a story for another day. I don't personally think so, but it is. And we turn those guys back. These guys are committing a greater crime and in greater numbers than what Sergeant Tahmooressi allegedly did. And we do nothing about it. This is completely backwards, unjustified, and lopsided.
Well, there you pretty much described our whole immigration system here. You know, I've said if I lived down in Acapulco, one of the most beautiful spots on earth, and I couldn't feed my family, I might be walking up here with them. But there is a way to process this. There is and the government's simply not doing its job, and it wasn't that good under Bush or Clinton or Bush after that, and it certainly hasn't got any better with Obama. So this is not a Republican or Democrat issue. This is something that's really fundamentally wrong with our whole system here, isn't it?
Yes. I mean, we lack intestinal fortitude. And listen, I understand. Having lived in 2 border states, I see the plight of many of these people that come across, and I can sympathize. I can feel for them. I see some of them are very hard-working people and people who are good at heart. And I can see that, and as a human being, I can feel that. But as an American who respects the rule of law, I have the emotional maturity to say, yes, I can feel bad for you, but our laws have to be respected. And as bad as I feel for you, I cannot give you a pass to flout our laws. I cannot just say, well, it's okay, you did it for the right reason, so it's okay for you to just ignore our laws. I can't do that. So, and that's what's lacking in a lot of people these days is, I mean, we have turned into a society that has forgotten how to think, and all they know how to do is emote. They just know how to feel. That's it. They act on their feelings. That's why Jon Stewart, the jackass that he is so popular, because he's figured out the way to indoctrinate people is to open the door through laughter and then to plant his propaganda with them, because we've become a society who has lost all manner of thinking, and all we know how to do is feel. And this is what we're coming across.
John, they don't call television programming for nothing.
Right, exactly.
And you know, I've lived in border states my whole life, and I was in Arizona running a factory for a friend of mine, and he had glass blowers he employed, and one of his foremen was here illegally and got sent back. I went down to try to get him into the States legally. He's got a job. He's needed. He's a valuable employee and a good guy. I couldn't do it. There was no method for me to bring somebody in legally in this country.
Right. Right.
Now, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it is definitely a sad state of affairs, but and it's something that we're definitely going to have to address once we get our Marine home. This is something that we have to continue forward, fighting. Mexico could be a prosperous nation. Mexico has a lot of natural resources, silver and copper, if I'm not mistaken, and Mexico could be a vibrant nation. And the problem is they're practically a failed state, which is what I alluded to earlier. There's nothing but corruption. Corruption rules the day. And you've got the cartels, and you've got the. Let me give you. Well, no, I won't go there. But I have some experience in that realm, but I'm gonna leave it out of it.
Good. You're perfectly welcome to do that, because I've got a book out called Mystery Babylon: New World Order Unveiled, and I blew the whistle on George Bush as CIA director, working with the Mossad, working with Manuel Noriega, working with Bill Clinton to bring plane loads of cocaine into the United States, into Panama from Colombia, Operation Watchtower. And then they were flown in by CIA agents like Barry Seal, who I also happened to meet. Just didn't know at the time. He brought me a nice butter Oaxacan, but I didn't know at the time he had a plane load of cocaine he was taking to Bill Clinton. I got books out there now about that, and of course I've been threatened by the CIA for that kind of article, which is all the truth.
Right.
So we got the drug cartels that are really set up and being run by our so-called intelligence agencies.
Well, that wouldn't surprise me. It's a bit beyond my realm of knowledge, but it wouldn't surprise me at all. So listen, I really appreciate you having me on. I've got a very, very full day ahead of me. I appreciate you helping us get the word out about our sergeant and helping us garner support from him.
How can people help you? Tell me how they can help you. Now, I've got links up to your business, your website, Shield Tactical. People can make donations there, and if you would tell me what your plan of action here. Are you setting up meetings with Mexican officials to put some pressure on?
I'm working on that, but I don't know how successful we're going to be. Today I'm going to try to put together a rally for tomorrow. People will need to check our website. I'm sorry, not our website, not the website. Check our Facebook page and Twitter for details on that. I'll be updating throughout the day. I'm going to try to, my main goal right now, and I already feel that on some level we've achieved a lot of success because there's a lot of people who know about Sergeant Tahmooressi now 2 days ago. And what my focus right now is, I'd like to fire up the people along the border, San Diego. I've even gotten some messages and phone calls I need to return from south of the border today. We want to put in motion a machine here, because I can't stay forever, but we want to put in motion a machine here that's going to activate and keep the pressure going. As far as the Mexican officials, that's something that I'm working on. It's kind of, what's happened over the last couple of days is kind of bittersweet because it's turned some people off to it. Some people who might have talked to it before probably aren't going to now because of some of the misinformation. I was just talking to someone before we got on the phone that what's happened over the last couple of days is kind of bittersweet because there is a lot of misinformation. It's like playing telephone over the internet. There's people that seem to believe that we're going to storm the prison. That's not something that's in the plan. I have jokingly said to some media that if I turn around and see 300,000 people behind me, I might change my mind about that. But right now, we're going to try to help Sergeant Tahmooressi and benefit him the best way that we can. Our goal is never to hurt him or hurt his cause. So right now, we're trying to put together a rally for tomorrow so we can put in motion some cells here, some people, some leaders, identify some leaders who can help us, and just get people fired up and get them ready to show Mexico who we are and just how dependent they are on us.
What about your Facebook site? What is your Facebook site? I will put links up on my Facebook.
It's facebook.com/Shield Tactical.
Okay.
And Twitter is John at Shield, JOHN ATSHIELD. Shield, SHIELD.
John F.
John at Shield,
at
JOHN S-A-I-E-L-D.
Okay, sir. All right, I know you're busy. I will let you go. And do me a favor and holler at me when you get back home, and I'll ride over to see you. We'll go for a ride together.
Very good. Thank you so much.
Thank you. God bless you. And
God bless
wish you the best of luck. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
All right, that was John Harrington. That was John Harrington. And Shield Tactical. I'll get all the links up as soon as possible here. Now, let's see, I'm on Blog Talk. If you would like to check in, if you'd like to call in, if you've got something of value to say, the phone number here is 646-915-8774. And don't know, there's a story up here, though, that I think you need to know. Our military has not done anything about Sergeant Tahmooressi, and part of it may be because they're at the Pentagon. They're just too busy watching child porn. Talk about a sickening thing. While our soldier is being tortured and held in a stinking Mexican jail, there is a child porn epidemic among Pentagon officials and U.S. government employees. Lori Handrahan, Ph.D., has done the story. She says last week the IRS decided to award Bradley Birkenfield his $104 million share for helping bust UBS Bank. Senator Charles Grassley, Republican of Iowa, and his staff were instrumental. Senator Grassley vowed to delay the pending Department of Treasury nominations if the IRS whistleblower program he wrote the legislation in 2006 continued to be mismanaged. This powerful voice from Iowa has been a beacon in the storm during an Obama administration that has targeted whistleblowers and prevented accountability as never before. The Pentagon is also under Senator Grassley's fire for failing to examine 1,700 of the 5,200 reports of employees doing child porn. The Pentagon claimed it wasn't a priority. Senator Grassley and his staff have made it one. The closed investigation into widespread use of child porn in the Pentagon is now reopened. There's a national crisis of federal employees engaged in the child porn industry and a related epidemic at the state level. She says, I've documented 2 states, Vermont and Maine, that appear to be running state-protected child trafficking rings with evidence of cops, judges, lawyers, clergy, and government employees covering for each other. This kind of racketeering creates powerful and extremely profitable pedophile rings. Money drives the crime. It is estimated that a criminal willing to molest a child in front of a live webcam can earn $1,000 a night. In Kittery, Maine, and I've been there, at the Danish Health Club, one bust yielded $6.1 million in door fees over a 5-year period, with prostitutes earning $12 million. Pimps' earnings were not reported. The doorman was a retired police officer whose wife worked in back. This bust happened because of one hard-working IRS agent, Rod Guzeri. An estimated $1.4 billion has been collected by the IRS whistleblower program since 2006. $464 million collected in 2010, but only $48 million in 2011. Half of all global child porn is produced in America. 10 new images of children are posted daily. Estimates of the global profits from child porn range from $3 to $20 billion. Imagine what the whistleblower program could collect if they focused on child trafficking, as Agent Rod Guzeri did in Maine. The Department of Justice Child Exploitation and Obscenity Unit has been, by many accounts, totally disabled under U.S. Attorney General Eric Holder. Catch this. Mr. Holder even refused to prosecute his own assistant United States attorney caught doing child porn on DOJ computers. The IRS wants 4,000 new agents and a $300 million budget to enforce Obamacare. Instead, these resources should be allocated entirely for an IRS child exploitation and trafficking unit. With so many police, judges, clergy, state and federal employees across America involved in the child porn industry, Americans should be able to turn to the IRS whistleblower program. Richard Weber, chief of the IRS's criminal division in Washington, D.C., is one point of contact. Apparently, the IRS cares about trafficked children. That's good news, because America's Attorney General, Eric Holder, does not. The child trafficking and porn are the fastest growing crimes in America. With billions being laundered in black money, it makes solid common sense for the IRS to focus on the child porn industry. Eric Holder's Department of Justice demonstrated they have no interest in prosecuting pedophiles, not even their own. The IRS should be given substantial resources to compensate for DOJ's disgraceful failure. American taxpayers, not to mention America's children, will reap huge rewards. Perhaps Senator Grassley will raise his powerful voice in support. All right. What else we got here? Yeah. Nothing worth seeing in the chat room here. 9:30 here. Let me see. I had somebody else I wanted to bring up. Let's see what else we got here. Today is Friday the 13th. Oh boy. Don't think I want to go there. Alright, let's see what else we got. Got James Perloff coming up in a few days. And I guess in Colorado, a lawsuit has been filed that claims marijuana taxes violate the Fifth Amendment. Attorney accuses governor and mayor of kingpin violations. Denver attorney Robert Corey filed a lawsuit on June 9th in Denver District Court seeking to permanently end Colorado's marijuana taxes on the grounds that the payment of the taxes violates a citizen's Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination, since marijuana remains illegal under federal law. Corey also accuses Colorado Governor Hickenlooper and Denver Mayor Michael Hancock of violating the federal kingpin statute, aka the federal law against operating a continual criminal enterprise for collecting taxes and laundering money on a federally illegal substance. Well, let's see if we can get a hold of Mr. Corey. See if we can get it up.
Thank you for calling the Law Office of Robert Corey. This is Kate. How can I help you?
Yes, ma'am. Is Robert Corey available? This is Clay Douglas. I'm live on a radio show here. And
okay.
I wondered if he might have a few minutes to spend talking about the cases he's filed.
Okay. Hold on one moment.
All right. We're trying for Robert Corey.
Hello, this is Rob.
Hello, Rob. This is Clay Douglas, a.k.a. the Free American. I do a radio show every morning about this time, and I've just shared with my audience the information I got in an email about you suing the state of Colorado. And I wondered if you've got a few minutes, I'd really like to talk to you about this.
Right now?
Yes, sir.
How many minutes do you think?
Well, whatever you can spare, sir. It's
Okay, I could probably give you 5 minutes right now.
all right. I have thought that Colorado presents the brightest hope for America right now. I've been kind of lobbying or writing about the legalization of marijuana, why it should happen, in my magazines and on my radio show for about 45 years. And when Colorado legalized it, I thought that was a giant step, and it should be done in every state. But what I'm reading in the story from you is that they haven't really legalized it. The feds still say it's illegal, and of course they kind of like the money they're getting off of us. And you know, people have asked me, well, Clay, isn't marijuana a gateway drug? Well, if you got to go to a drug dealer to buy it, yeah. And now they're trying to, if you can just grow this in your backyard and you want to share it with your neighbor, I think that's a great thing. If the government's going to come in and want to tax you for everything that you grow, everything that you share, I think that's a problem. Tell me what's going on.
Well, that's right. And what we have here is we don't have full legalization. When there is overtaxation, we have all of the same collateral negative consequences of prohibition. And so the promise of Amendment 64, which I helped draft and campaign for and walk the streets literally for, is not being realized, is being defeated, because the black market in Colorado is still very much alive and well and growing, because you have these enhanced personal protections, which are a good thing, but then we don't have the economic freedom. And freedom is not just civil liberties, but there's also an economic freedom, and we don't have that. And the purpose of Amendment 64 was to treat marijuana like alcohol and tax it like alcohol, and that is not being done. So it was a scam perpetrated on voters to pass Amendment 64 but then overtax it, and we're hoping to reverse that. We're using all the tools at our disposal.
Well, that's how we got into this whole mess in the first place, when they passed the marijuana tax that wiped out our billion-dollar crop of hemp across this country. It was done using the taxation.
And thank God hemp's not taxed at this extreme rate. That was another component of Amendment 64 that looks to be succeeding. We've got lots of people growing hemp in Colorado. Of course, we're struggling with the processing capability and all that, but that'll come with time. But can you imagine if the government placed an effective 40% tax on any other product? Of course there would be a black market. I don't care what the product is. You tax something at 40%, there's going to be a black market. That is economics 101. And the government is economically illiterate. And unfortunately, we couldn't persuade the politicians, so we're going to the courts.
I made the comment that they have refined the art of slavery to the point the slaves don't know they're slaves. I'm not a slave. I can go get my pickup and go get a beer. You know, that's called economic slavery.
Yep, that's right.
But you have made some progress in Colorado. What kind of help do you need? And I'm down in Texas, and I got started on this about 45 years ago when I got thrown in prison for having a couple of joints in Texas. They threatened me with 99 years if I went to court, if I went to trial. And so I wrote books while I was in prison about a future when victimless crimes had been abolished. And initially I thought that's what had happened in Colorado. Suddenly you could walk down the street with a joint in your pocket and not get thrown into the slave labor camp to work for IBM for 25 cents an hour.
Well, that's true, and we are making great progress in Colorado, and there's no question we're leading the charge here. You're down there in the belly of the beast, as it were. It's you know, quite ironic that Texas professes to be all about freedom and you know, it's a red state, don't mess with Texas and that whole thing, but yet they still have some of the most draconian laws regarding this harmless plant that was created by God and grows on God's earth. And so Texas is ought to be prosecuted for aggravated hypocrisy, because they talk about freedom, but their actions do not reflect.
Now, be careful here. You're giving away the plot of the novels I wrote 45 years ago, when marijuana was legalized in 46 states, but Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Mississippi kept the same kind of laws that they had today, and were busting people that were driving across the state, putting them in prisons for what was legal in every other state. And I was kind of excited when we got medical marijuana. I was living in Arizona. We got medical marijuana there. I said, wow, maybe for the first time in 45 years, I won't be a criminal anymore.
Yep.
But it didn't quite work out that way because I had been smoking illegally for 45 years.
Fine-tune our program here in Colorado.
I was so healthy. I was so healthy I couldn't get medical marijuana because I didn't need the damn doctors to give me something God gave me.
Well, that is a legitimate beef. You know, why should only sick people get this plant? Because it has benefits for all, and then, you know, what's wrong with recreation anyway? I mean, nobody's claiming that alcohol is overall a positive thing and for people's health, but at the same time, we live in a free country, and if you want to drink a beer, you ought to be able to do that. And we tried that experiment with prohibition, which is regulating a man's appetite for something, and I think we all know how prohibition went, prohibition of alcohol. I don't think anybody seriously advocates that as government policy anymore. And marijuana prohibition is the same thing, and overtaxation is just another form of prohibition. Same thing, different shape.
Ayn Rand had it correct when in Atlas Shrugged she wrote, "The government has no control over honest citizens, so they got to make criminals out of us." That's what the tax laws are about. That's what the drug laws are about. People have said, well, Clay, isn't marijuana a gateway drug? I said, absolutely. If you got to buy it from a drug dealer, if you can buy it from your neighbor, they're not going to try to sell you cocaine or heroin or any of the other stuff that the government agencies bring in.
Indeed. Well, I've got to dash off here. Got to go to court, but thanks for this interview, and thanks for your time.
I appreciate that. I would like to talk to you when you've got more time off the air, because frankly, I would like to. I financed Jack Hara while he wrote "Emperor Wears No Clothes."
Oh, good.
And
well, why don't you give me a call later on today, and we can talk.
All right, I'll do that. Thank you.
Sir.
I appreciate you taking the time. And
right,
congratulations on the work that you're doing. Thank you, sir. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
All right. Making headway. What are we doing here? We talked about child porn here. We got all right. We will get him later. Now, on the child porn, and the child porn thing in Brussels, in Belgium, common law courts have indicted the Pope and the Queen of England for molesting children and for genocide. Now, you can buy hemp seeds, you can buy hemp products, You can buy hemp products from Canada, but if the Queen and the Church has been indicted, what does that mean for Canada? Well, in the wake of last year's criminal conviction and lawful annulment of Canada's head of state, Elizabeth Windsor, for crimes against humanity, patriots across Canada are gathering in Winnipeg this October at a constitutional convention to establish a sovereign republic in Canada to replace so-called Crown authority. The convention will issue a proclamation of independence and the Constitution to be ratified by the people of Canada. It will provide a legitimate basis for the establishment of de jure common law courts across Canada. Kevin Annett, and I'll see if I can find something about Kevin. Kevin Annett is an advisor to the Winnipeg-based Provisional Council for the Republic, said today in a joint statement with Council Chairman Cameron Shields, one woman in London, Elizabeth Windsor, owns all the land and minerals of our country and is murdered and can murder children at her pleasure. She also calls herself the head of state of Canada. We will not live under such tyranny any longer, nor allow our children to. Under the law, there is no lawful authority in Canada any longer. We must create that authority and come under the rule of common law and a true republic. We ask every Canadian to join us. The convention will take place on October 27th to 31st, 2014. It will establish the constitutional basis for common law courts in Canada and the legal disestablishment of the Crown of England and its sponsor, the Church of Rome. Let me see what we got here. I got their mission statement up here, and members will be qualified in categories like but not limited to the following: the Constitution, civil rights, accounting, business, personal ethics, and more. This is everyone's fight, not just a baker. People must take a stand against a commission to direct sovereigns. Next thing you can expect, a commission will determine your ability to qualify for heart surgery. Okay, let's see if we can hear about this. Let's see about this trial. Okay, we tacked...
Welcome back. We're with the Field Secretary of the International Tribunal into Crimes of Church and State, Kevin Annett. Welcome, Kevin.
Hi, Alfred. It's good to be back.
Yesterday was quite a day in that the ITCCS issued an order to stand down on the first anniversary of the conviction of both the UK Crown, Elizabeth Windsor, and the papacy. Could you tell us about that?
Well, I mean, it was the inevitable result when you convict a criminal institution. Obviously, you're going to tell their agents and officers that to continue to hold an allegiance to these bodies or individuals is a crime. And so what the presiding magistrates who were actually responsible for this case a year ago, they issued orders that we posted online at itccs.org. These orders, which actually tell a couple of things. They say that they're directed to the officers and agents of not only the Crown of England but the Vatican, the entire Roman Catholic Church. And it says basically that they are freed from their oath of office, their oath of allegiance, because the authority of those offices are now null and void under international law, under customary law that says you cannot operate at the behest of criminals. And it says you not only have to stand down, but if you continue to obey the orders and act under the authority of these bodies, you're committing a crime and you yourself can be subject to arrest and trial. So if this is directed, I mean, it's mind-boggling when you think about it, Alfred. It's directed at every policeman, every civil servant, every politician, judge, lawyer in Canada, in England, any Commonwealth country, and anywhere in the Roman Catholic world. So this has been especially made pertinent by the fact that the news that came out where Elizabeth Windsor is actually colluding with the Vatican in imposing this criminal policy called crimen sollicitanis, now on Anglican clergy as well. They're obligated, every citizen of the Commonwealth is obligated to refrain from any oath of office or allegiance to the Crown anymore. And so this is very exciting. It means that when people run off these documents, they are going to be served on all these officials. And it creates an enormous power vacuum, and people now have to establish their own bona fide systems of authority. So, for example, in Canada, obviously there needs to be a new constitutional arrangement free of the Crown, a republic. There needs to be a new government constituted, because the present one doesn't have that authority. So all of this is really historic and quite amazing. It gives survivors of these crimes a practical weapon on the ground as well to be using, and we're just very excited that this step has been made.
Right. Now, could you go through again what it was when Elizabeth Windsor colluded with the Vatican to bring in crimen sollicitatis as part of the Anglican Church?
Right. Well, it was known now colloquially as the Hollywood Agreement, because on September 16th, 2010, Pope Benedict, the former Pope who stepped down, he was the first Pope in history to visit England, and there was an enormous protest. As a matter of fact, I was there. It was quite a day in the streets of London. There was over 20,000 people protesting the Pope's presence. Well, he hurried off to Edinburgh, sat down with Elizabeth Windsor, and apparently, and this is from a source in the Vatican as well as the English Parliament, they confirmed that this occurred. The terms of agreement are being worked out whereby the Church of England is to be reabsorbed into the Roman Catholic Church. And Elizabeth Windsor is negotiating that. Now, that in itself is a violation of her basic coronation oath, which says she'll defend the Protestant faith and she will defend her citizens, or they like to call subjects. So not only is that's another reason why people should not be obeying or going along with this authority, because she's involved in reneging her oath of office, in effect. And the other thing that occurred, which makes it relevant to the present Pope, is that Francis did a house cleaning, of course, to get rid of any evidence of this after he came in. Now, that's not only why Ratzinger stepped down, one of the reasons, but the cardinal who brokered this whole deal of the Church of England coming back to Rome, Tarcisio Bertone, he also resigned in August 31st. Actually, just again, a few weeks after the Catholic Church was declared a transnational criminal body under UN law, he steps down. So Bergoglio, Pope Francis, wanted to sever any connection between this deal, because even though it's in place, he doesn't want people to be aware of it, because it goes against his whole kind of nice guy reform image that they're desperately cultivating these days.
So what you're saying is that the effect of this ruling is to disestablish the UK monarchy because it belongs to a criminal family, the
Exactly.
Windsors, and on the other hand to disestablish the papacy because it belongs to an international criminal organization.
Exactly.
And so that those two bodies can no longer be public bodies holding public trust. That's what you're saying.
Absolutely. They have no political legitimacy or legal authority. They should not be receiving tax money, definitely. And the governments included in that are engaged in colluding with associated with convicted criminal bodies. These are not just, this isn't just hot air. They were convicted on the basis of solid evidence, eyewitnesses. This thing that Elizabeth Windsor's done is mind-boggling. It says that every Anglican clergy, as well as the Catholic Church now, have to actively protect child rapists. And, that means that when, if people know anything about the policy crimen solicitanis, it says that when a child is raped, the police are not to be told, and if you talk about it, you're excommunicated or even imprisoned under church law now. So, I mean, people cannot, legally or morally cooperate with that kind of regime.
Now, to take this further, there's an upcoming meeting between Elizabeth Windsor as Queen, or attempting to be Queen, and Bergoglio, Pope Francis, in Rome on April 3rd, 2014. Do you take this as a continuation of this criminal conspiracy? Absolutely,
because if the Queen wasn't involved in that conspiracy, why would she be, why would she not be going to Rome? This is very important because they will be negotiating the terms of the readmission of the Church of England into the Catholic Church. They're meeting, Prince Philip and Queen Elizabeth are meeting with President Napolitano first on that day, on April 3rd, and then they're going to be sitting down in the Vatican for a nice little chat with Pope Francis. Now, it comes at a good time for us because a few days before that, on March 31st, we will be convening in Brussels the opening hearings into the second major case before the International Common Law Court of Justice. And that will be into global child trafficking with Jorge Bergoglio, Pope Francis, named as the chief defendant. So there will be people in Rome on April 3rd to serve public summonses on Jorge Bergoglio in the name of that court. There will be sheriffs appointed by the court to do that. And also to enforce the standing year-old citizen arrest warrant on Elizabeth Windsor, and that will be attempted. One of the documents that was released, again, which you can see at itccs.org, is actually a statement by the presiding judges which authorizes the creation of special court sheriffs and common law peace officers to enforce these warrants. So in effect, we're filling the power vacuum created by the stand-down order with citizen sheriffs and peace officers. So that's our power, the power of people taking this into their own hands and saying we're not going to tolerate anymore, child traffickers in major positions of power, regardless of what kind of protection they have. They are illegitimate and now disestablished.
All right. David Kaas, how are you, sir?
Real good, Clayton. I just walked in the door and got sat down and got you up, and, and you got some.
All right, see if you can get your volume up or your microphone closer or something. You're a little weak there.
All right.
Now, at the beginning of the show here, before maybe it was after here. Hang on, we got a break here. See if you can get your volume up. We'll be right back here, a little Truth Radio break here.
What's really going on in the world that mainstream media won't tell you. At Truth Radio, you can listen live or listen to a large selection of archived programs. TruthRadio.com. The truth is out there.
Did you hear what I said, or did you hear what you thought I said, or did you hear what you wanted me to say or thought I might have said? In 1971, a couple of Swiss tourists named Hans and Irma, along with their pet poodle, Rosa, were visiting China. and they stopped in at a Chinese restaurant. Actually, it was in Hong Kong, and they asked the waiter if he would mind taking the little poodle, Rosa, into the kitchen and feeding her something while they ate their meal. The Chinese waiter gladly agreed, but 2 minutes later, the couple realized he had misunderstood their request. When he returned the poodle to their table in a frying pan marinated with sweet and sour sauce and garnished with Chinese vegetables, Hans and Irma learned that day the cost of unclear communication. Just maybe little Rosa's fate would have been a little different that day if they'd asked the waiter to repeat their order back to them. If I say something stupid on Truth Radio, write me an email. Tell me how stupid it sounded, and I'll write back to you and confess or tell you maybe you got it wrong.
All right. Yeah, fried poodle, yeah. Delicacy in China, probably. David Kaas.
How's that sound, Clayton?
Yeah, that's better, sir. That's better. I can hear you on that now. Now, what I had just read today, now I just played Kevin Arnett, who they have taken the Queen and the church into common law courts, and I had just earlier, before you got on, done a story about the Pentagon. There's a crisis in the Pentagon of employees, federal employees engaged in child porn industry. And you've talked a lot about these children being kidnapped, possibly taken into underground bases, and we lose thousands of children every year.
Exactly.
Where they just disappear. Now that we're finding out that in the Pentagon, they're using them for child pornography.
Well, that's probably what they use them for first, and then they dump them down to the hole in Dulce, where they, like I said, they drain their pituitary glands of hormonal extract to mix with chemicals. But they're probably using them for double duty, you know? They're just taking them in one place and then dumping them off in the last place to use as just whatever they can get out of them. But there's been so many kidnappings over the last 10 years, and the news hasn't covered it at all, and we don't even hear much about it except through Facebook and the YouTube and places like that.
Child porn ranges. America is the #1 child porn source of child porn in the world. 10 new images of children are posted daily, and estimates of the profits from child porn range from $3 to $20 billion.
Clay, you would think that the president would take some action against this, or you would think that Congress would appoint a special committee to handle this ever-growing problem. But the fact is that nobody seems to care at all that's running our government.
Well, we've got the same problem. Again, the guest I had on this morning, I've had 2 different guests on this morning. It's been kind of a hit-and-run day. I've got John Harrington. I had John Harrington on that's in San Diego trying to free the Marine that's being held there for crossing the border with guns. Couldn't turn around, was trying to turn around, trying to make a U-turn. He got caught in traffic. He declared his guns at Customs. Customs were going to let him go, but the Mexican cops came and got him and put him in jail. Now we got a few thousand bikers headed to San Diego to try to put some pressure on the government, the Mexican government, to get him out. I'll be posting that on YouTube. It's, I believe it's, what is it?
Well, the shit is actually hitting the fan.
It's Shield, yeah, it's Shield. Facebook, Shield.com. And you know, this I done this story on the whole the Pentagon. The employees at the Pentagon are into child porn. We've also I think we mentioned the homosexuality is rampant in the military right now.
Yep. And they're even trying to teach our little children in the grade schools that it's all right to be that way, you know, and then that they shouldn't think negatively about that, people that are that way, you know. It's reaching all the way down to our first second grade public schools now. And I just read on the internet just 2 nights ago that the Pope is having Muslims all meet in the square in Rome now, and they're singing their anthems and whatnot.
One world religion. They are trying to combine all the and again, kind of ahead of the curve here. I told you that Obama's a perfect New World Order leader. He's Catholic, sure. He's Jewish, and he's Muslim. I mean, he's all three. One world religion, one world government, of the bankers, by the bankers, and for the bankers. And part of that is a one world religion where anything goes. You can be homosexual, you can be gay, you can molest children, and all that's part of the Talmud too. So
sure. Well, that came from the Middle East, you know, where men do it with men from the time they're children. They put corks up their anuses as children so to stretch the muscles out, because it's just a common, ordinary thing. It has been for all time. They're real protective of the females. They keep bags over their heads. Even your daughters can come out of the sack. But the men are typically gay, behaving homosexuals with each other. And it amazed me when I heard the stories about 25 years ago, what they do over there in the Middle East. And I thought, well, that's really weird. I mean, that's strange, you know. It's unheard of.
And President Obama, another gay guy that we elected for president, he declared June. My birthday's this month. I don't appreciate it at all. He's declared it LBGT or something like that month. Lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transsexual month.
Jesus, horse! The shit is hitting the fan, Clayton. You know, they used to always joke about wait till the shit hits the fan. It's hitting the fan now, and it's covering everybody.
Well, this article, this thing I'm playing, let me play a little bit more of it. Kevin Annett has tried, and they set up a common law court in Brussels, and they've tried the Pope and the UK Queen for genocide. And the information is being released that the Queen was molesting children too, or at least authorizing it. Let's hear a little bit more of from him here.
Now, one of the witnesses that will be coming forth at the trial commencing in Brussels on March 31st is reportedly a former member of the Argentine government during the junta times, who has direct evidence to give of Jorge Bergoglio then personal involvement in child trafficking. Is that the case?
That's right. He's apparently a civil servant who has first-hand experience of sitting in on meetings where Jorge Bergoglio agreed to use Catholic orphanages in Buenos Aires and other places as a place whereby children of political prisoners were kidnapped and trafficked. Now, this is not new. The Catholic Church did it in Spain under Franco. Over 500,000 children were kidnapped that way. Now, don't forget, kidnapping children in that way, as we know from the Indian boarding schools in Canada, is an act of genocide. It's defined in point 5 under the UN Convention on Genocide. They define that the transporting of children out of their biological families by another group, that's genocide. Jorge Bergoglio was personally involved in that act. Now, this was coming from a former civil servant who's now living under protection in Spain, and we hope to be having him give his deposition as well as witnesses from other countries.
Now, so that the sheriffs and the proceedings that are happening on April 3rd in Rome against Elizabeth Windsor and Bergoglio, Pope Francis, those will be happening under the direct authority of the trial that will have started on March 31st in Brussels.
Absolutely. It isn't a random protest. It'll be under that direct authority. So if anyone stops, if the Italian police or the Vatican security try to stop and arrest anyone, they are involved in obstructing justice. They themselves can be tried and arrested for not just protecting known or suspected criminals, but actually obstructing justice. And in this case, when you're obstructing an investigation into genocide and human trafficking, that's a pretty serious offense. And so we have to use that as a basis to get many other groups, including other governments, to recognize what we're doing and to offer their support, which we begin to get actually over this whole issue.
Now,
so this isn't just happening in America. It's not just happening in the Pentagon. It's a global portion. You know, and I'm kind of going back here. I've said I'm not really against the New World Order. I think we ought to have a New World Order, but it needs to be run by the people, not the pedophiles, not the homosexuals, not the banksters. You know, I don't want a one-world government of the bankers, by the bankers, and for the bankers.
Well, Clayton, this is the old world order still in power, and they're all going down the tubes fast now. The Queen is the first one, it looks like, and her son, or the prince, or whoever. But that's the order of the day now. And it's been a year or two. I've been hearing the Canadians have been upset with the English rule, and they've been trying to break their ties with them. But you know, hey, it's more than just that. It goes to modern day Israel and the Rothschilds and the banking system, and I've heard that it's Rome, Washington, and England that are all the three power centers of the world.
The City of London, this is the headquarters for the international banks, and it's the headquarters for the Bar Association, the British Accredited Registry. And we, you know, I'm sorry, how's that old joke, what's 100 lawyers on the bottom of the ocean? You know, that's a good start.
It's amazing what you see on the internet every day. When I grew up, it was the television set. Everybody's glued to the tube and watching the news. But nowadays, there's nothing on any of the 5 major news channels but traffic reports and bad weather. But have you been getting any rain down there, Clayton?
Yeah, we had a nice little storm blow through last night, but not too bad. We can certainly use the rain. So,
because I heard from I did Blog Talk Radio show last night with a guy from Carolinas, and he had a co-host from Florida, and they said they're just getting downpours out there, and it's ruining all the planting once again, and it comes right at the wrong time of the year for the seed to go in the ground. But I told them, I said, it's been cool out here, and they go, well, you're probably getting a little bit of the draft from our showers, but they said it's just a mess there, just a mess.
Well, we've certainly got weather control up on the freeway site, and near the top of the site, I've got the whole story on chemtrails. That's weather modification. HARP is weather modification. And my film True Face of FEMA, you know, they pointed out that we're in for a war, a long war. It may go longer than the Cold War, and the enemy's weak. The enemy doesn't have tanks, doesn't have planes, doesn't have helicopters. So who's the enemy? That's us.
We don't need tanks and helicopters. We can shoot them down with just Laws rockets, and just like they did over in Afghanistan. They kicked the Russians right out of there, and within a year or two, when the Russians tried to take over, those guys in the mountains just dropped them with those bazookas. I mean, $1 million helicopters crashing all the time.
Well,
so,
now you're starting to get. You just brought up another area. Now some of the people in the government are going, well, the Taliban aren't that bad guys. That's part of our culture. That's part of the Afghanistan culture. Those nasty old Taliban that they've demonized were destroying the opium poppy crops, and that's why we went in. That's why we have our troops guarding the opium poppy crops. And in my book, Mystery Babylon, New World Order Unveiled, I've got the whole story about Operation Watchtower, which was George Bush and the Mossad, Michael Harari from the Mossad, bringing all the cocaine into, that little protected airport called Mena, Arkansas.
Well, Hillary Clinton is, I hear, broke now. She's got to make some money and get back on top of the ball. So Bill's probably doing a circuit of talks and speeches now again. But it's all a bunch of bull crap, Clayton. Everybody's heard it, and everybody knows it is. And the funny thing is the young crowd now, the 19 to 24-year-olds, they're at the dumbest of all of us. They're catching on too, real quick. They're not being persuaded by the political jargon that kind of snowballed all of us in the day. They're wise enough, and they're getting real smart, and they're saying we're not voting for them either. We're not giving our support. But the last few elections, Clayton, were Diebold bull hockey. It didn't matter how you voted. I saw a film on HBO where a woman went to the Diebold machines and voted one way, and then she got the readout back, and it said that she voted the other way. So those are rigged machines. All the Diebold machines are rigged, just like Las Vegas is, the slot machines. And that's one thing that we know now not to do. We all have to use the write-in ballot in this next election in order to convince our electoral college by a recount as many times as they need of the actual votes, rather than go to a Diebold machine and cast your ballot and have it read it however it wants. That's how all of our presidents have been elected. That's why they're all related to each other too, because this Diebold scam that they've been pulling since I don't know when they first got one out there. Was it the 90s or the 80s? But they're all over the country.
Well, I've been involved in, I know you wanted to run for president, and I admire the intent, but I've been through presidential elections. I mean, Charles Collins had money. Charles Collins had no scandals, nothing they could hold over him. So they just never filmed him. They never had every time he got up to speak, they turned the cameras off and pointed them at the ground at every Republican convention from Maine to California. And in Maine and Michigan, they unplugged his microphone.
Well, Charles Collins, I'm sure was a great guy, but he didn't have the internet. He didn't have the problems which are confronting the public at this time coming down from the top. He didn't have a president sitting on top of D.C. like Obama. That is, right now, they've got evidence that in store that says that he's falsified his birth certificate, he's not from this country. They've had more than one party that's going to be testifying against him. So these are things that Charles Collins didn't have in that day, and if he had, maybe he would have gotten elected. But times are changing always, and we have to remember that. And they're changing for the worst nowadays, and they can get better if we just all get together and we all put our votes in the same barrel, so they can count them, like I said, as many times as they need to, we can actually take back this country, this government, and make this a new land once again. Because we've got a lot of jobs. We create so many jobs, Clayton, if we just legalize hemp for industrial production and convert our engines.
Well, now you missed that. I'm talking to an attorney. I'll be talking to him off the air a little bit later on today, who is suing the governor and the state about charging taxes on the marijuana. It's a criminal enterprise.
There's always somebody in the mix going to try to mess things up. You know, when things are running really good, they're getting better and better every month, every year. There's always people that are paid off to do that. You know, but it isn't gonna work this time. I mean, Colorado is set a precedence in the country just by setting an example of just how good the sales can go. You know, and how they can use the money to better the communities and everything. And it doesn't matter. There's always going to be the negatives around, but nobody's going to listen to them because they can see for a fact that it does work better. Crime's down, drug usage is down, everything is flattening that down, and it's all from the sale of marijuana to the restaurants, to the general public.
I just made the comment to the lawyer that, you know, isn't marijuana a gateway drug? Oh, absolutely. If you got to go to a drug dealer to get it, he's damn sure going to want to sell you a little bit more cocaine, a little bit more methamphetamine, a little bit more heroin, whatever he can make some more money off of. If you can grow it in your backyard and share it with your neighbor, then there ain't no crime and there ain't no profit incentive. You know, God gave us that marijuana plant. God gave us hemp. God gave us cannabis.
Well, when they call it a gateway drug, the only gate I'm going through is the gates of freedom, of choice, and the gates of a new tomorrow. You know, I'm not going backwards. I'm not doing anything stupid, and I'm certainly not going to use any, you know, addictive type of chemicals that are going to, you know, kill me. You know, that's just all talk, and that's all what they're all about. You know.
Well, that's their divide and conquer. Be afraid. Oh, he's a pothead. Oh, he's a hippie. Oh, he's you know, come on. Get over it, guys.
There's no hippies around that are dead and dying from marijuana. They're dead or dying from everything else that they got given to them, the four-way blotter asses and whatnot that the government put out in the day. All the reds and
that wasn't that bad.
White crosses. I did some of that myself in the 70s, but you know, it's like that stuff will wreck your car and wreck you up. You know, that's no good. But everybody was still kind of stupid back then. You know, we were just taking whatever they sold us to concerts, the rock concerts, and look, they were kind of pretty little pills. You know, like Grandma's Little Helpers. You know, we just all did them and drank a bottle of wine and had a good time.
Well, you know, I've said many times, my mother and grandmother were drug addicts, and I didn't know it. They just went to the doctor. They just went to the doctor and got their prescriptions. I didn't know I didn't know what my grandmother was taking. She took sleeping pills, and until I finally took one of those little red capsules and said, "Whoa, Granny! Wow, no." I thought you were just.
Those little white crosses were unbelievable. You know, you pop a couple of those and you're speeding all day long. But you know, that was in the day. Nowadays they do a lot more damage and with the crack mixed up from chemicals you buy at the hardware store. I mean, people are burning out their nasal passages and everything just breathing that stuff. You know. it's a sad state we've come to. But we do need leadership. We do need people just like yourself, Clayton, to stand up and tell people just what they're doing to themselves, just what's really going on, and just what they've got to come to, you know, before they all kill themselves.
They are encouraging that. I mean, come on, the food that you're eating, that you buy in the grocery store, has the potential to kill you right now. I mean, they are putting... Why is the country's, the world's largest producer of insecticides making our food?
Exactly. Monsanto.
Monsanto.
Right. So
I think it should be Satan, or Monsatan would be a better description for it.
They've got to get that GMO stamp on all the foods, and then we've got to not touch anything with GMO labeling. That's the trick.
They haven't done that yet. They haven't even got that. I think maybe a couple of states passed that.
Well, that's because they've got senators and congressmen in the federal government that are working for that company. You know, they're appointed and paid for, and they're stymieing the bills which would allow this to happen. And there's no reason why it shouldn't happen, but that's why it's not. It's because our government is paid off and bought by a whole bunch of cricket bastards.
That's true. Let's let Kevin Arnett bring us up, because I'm encouraged by what's happening in Brussels. We're seeing the common law courts now. Even Canada may be stepping ahead of us because they're getting rid of the criminals. The Queen is a criminal, a child. She is guilty of genocide, and this has been found in a common law court in Brussels. Go ahead, Kevin.
And it was on the basis of judgments, evidence and judgments that the ITCCS obtained that were then presented to governments that Ratzinger, Pope Benedict, stepped down, among other reasons. Is that correct?
That's right. There was the government in two countries in Europe, actually, on the basis of the evidence we had accumulated for a number of years, including letters that American lawyers had put forward to the International Criminal Court, showing that Joseph Ratzinger had signed letters to American bishops and bishops in Ireland as well, ordering them to not cooperate with the police in their investigation of known child rapists operating in the Catholic Church. At a fairly senior level, we're talking bishops and in one case a cardinal in Ireland, Sean Brady. You know, so this was in the guy's own handwriting, and it was on the basis of that evidence that these two countries in Europe said definitely we will issue or apply for an arrest warrant if this Pope is on our territory. And it was only 6 days after that Ratzinger stepped down, after that diplomatic note was received by the Secretary of State's office. And of course, Secretary of State stepped down too after that. So I mean, it was pretty, you know, quite an admission of guilt on their part.
Now, in Brussels, of course, is in Belgium, and the Brussels Parliament, notably a number of the members of Parliament there, have recently exposed a vast pedophile network reaching out into the royal family, where I believe one of your witnesses exposed the former King of Belgium as a pedophile, and the names of the pedophile network in Belgium, starting with the former Prime Minister, former ministers, leading lawyers, leading bankers, all leading families in Belgium have been exposed as pedophiles. Do you expect that this is part of the reason why these charges are taken so seriously in Brussels?
Absolutely. And you know, we're talking Prince Bernhard, the grandfather of the present King of Holland, Louis Mountbatten, the uncle of Prince Philip, Cardinal Alfrink, who was a senior Catholic cardinal, Joseph Ratzinger himself. Now, these were people all named by Toos Nieuwenhuis, who was, as a child in the 1960s, she witnessed the ritual torture, rape, and killing, and even the cannibalistic consumption of these children after they died at these sick rituals in Chateau in France. And she was also taken to Carnarvon Castle in Wales, where this stuff was going on. These are international networks, and they involve very prominent people in all of these fields. So I mean, it's there. I mean, it can't be denied. And I think the response of these people in power and their avoidance and resignations are clear indications. Don't forget, they never refuted any of this evidence. In our first common law court case about genocide in Canada, of the 30 defendants, not one of them, including Elizabeth Windsor, Joseph Ratzinger, Stephen Harper, the Prime Minister of Canada, not one of them ever denied or refuted statements that were made publicly that they were involved in these acts or covering up these criminal acts.
Now, do you think that, given the evidence that you've seen, that these pedophile networks that were recently exposed in Belgium, at the Belgian Parliament, in where the Brussels trial will be, would you think that they're interconnected with the pedophile networks that are the basis of the conviction of Elizabeth Windsor, Pope Ratzinger, and now the trial of Pope Francis as representative of the Vatican?
Well, very much. I mean, it's all connected. I think that's what's clear, Alfred, that, you know, we are exposing something very hideous and very well organized. And the proof is simply in the level of it. I mean, when the one American bishop ever to go to jail for enforcing criminal solicitanis for the Vatican policy protecting child raping priests, William Lynn, it was shown that in the Philadelphia diocese alone of the Catholic Church, a quarter of the priests were involved in active child trafficking. That's hundreds of priests in that one area alone. This is massive, and not surprisingly, William Lynn is now out of jail. He would only served about 6 months and then he got out. So it's one of another reasons that we have to pursue this route of common law court indictments, because the present courts, including the International Criminal Court, are colluding directly with the Vatican. The ICC refused to act on 22,000 pieces of evidence linking Joseph Ratzinger to the suppression of any investigation into child rape within the Catholic Church. So the existing bodies are part of the problem, and this is why we are looking to the common law.
So, yes. Now, so that it would seem then from the weight of the evidence so far that there is an international criminal network which includes the Vatican, which includes the monarchies, but which includes the Catholic Church worldwide, but also which may include institutions such as the governments, the U.S. government, the Canadian government.
And that's exactly what I pointed out to you earlier in the broadcast, that the Pentagon, there are thousands of people in the Pentagon, in the government, that are engaging in child pornography. David, it's amazing to me. I mean, all the evidence is here, but we just gotta overlook it. We just gotta ignore it. And this is really the power and the necessity of the free American. You think NBC, ABC, CBS is going to be talking about the Queen being a pedophile, about the Pope being a pedophile, about the Pope protecting the pedophile priest? They're not doing it.
Oh no, they're not going to say a word about that, because they know if they do, they'll be fired. The reporters will be fired. You know, I mean, the owners of those stations, they've got money invested. They own the station, they own the broadcast, and they're not going to say anything because they don't want to lose their heads, you know, as well. You know, the news is happening so quickly, Clayton, that it's like one fact hits you one day, and 2 days later there's some other fact from around the other side of the world that's 3 times as bad, and then another airliner crashes, and then another shooter is sought out by the police and gunned down, and it's just like you can't tell the rapidity of all these bad things. Just the other day, just 2 days ago, I went down the street to mail a letter in the morning. This is right after the incident that happened in Las Vegas this last weekend, and I watched 2 police officers on motorcycles pull over a woman in a car right in front of the post box where I was standing. But they were looking at the drivers of the cars driving by repeatedly while they wrote out the ticket to this woman. They're all scared right now. All police are on the run from the general populace because they know, somebody's going to pull up in a car and just shoot them right in the head, because people are getting that angry with their own police forces and their failure to side with the general populace. And the police are getting scared. I can see it right in their eyes.
Yeah, Grandma V.K. Durham. Now, I was talking about that story about the pedophiles, and she says Grassley is as full of it as a Christmas goose. This goes equally for his former aide Bill Anderson, who is currently with Congressman Steve King, which I will include a ditto. After I reported this global money laundering, murder, and frauds, I have been hounded to death by this group who are guarding their own asses and investment portfolios. I've never seen such a violation of duty of oath of office in my 78 years. Brags a lot but does nothing. Powerful, diligent, my ass. And she wrote something to the Secretary of the Treasury, Henry Paulson, and Ron Paul and Dave Eckler and others about the Cantor, Fitzgerald, Goldman Sachs, Federal Reserve, Bush et al. Financial terrorism. She said, gentlemen, what the hell is going on? As if this article by Tom Franco and the criminal activity of the Bush family, which clearly violates 18 U.S.C. regarding public officials selling or trading their public property and public debt when trust U.S. debt property Durham Holding Trust has 12087 is used without authorization by the President of the United States, who has absolutely no jurisdiction over these treaty instruments, abuses his power of office for a money laundering scam which has created this current global banking, financial, economic crisis, which I must ask you, what the hell is going on here?
Well, I'd say, Clayton, there's a one way and only one way out of this mess that we've seen building up around us all for the last few years. There's only one way to straighten out not only our own lives, but the lives of our children and the children that aren't even born yet in this world. There's only one way to make this country work the right way again, and that is to elect an independent president this next term, and that's the only way we're going to do it. We're not going to be able to do it through putting our votes in a die-bold machine. We're not going to be able to do it by trusting, like we've always been taught we're supposed to, that the government has our best interests in mind. We're not going to be able to, because we haven't seen anything happen good for the last, I don't know how many terms. 4 terms of president, and all we've been seeing is bad things every time. So we need to legalize hemp. We need to convert to hydrogen. We need to put in some new roadways that absorb the sunlight and produce electricity. We need more than just promises. We need facts. We need action. Right.
We need a restructuring, David. We've got the money, and we don't need the Federal Reserve to give us the money.
Exactly.
We can issue the money, just like Kennedy, just like Lincoln. We can issue the money. Of course, all of those people that did that, including Gaddafi, who was demonized.
Well, you know, Clayton, all we need to do is print our own money and circulate it in our own country here for a few years. We need to get off this Rothschild wagon and quit paying them interest. That's where all of our debt is. All of our debt, they say we're millions and billions of dollars in debt. Who are we in debt to? It's the Rothschild family bankers that have us all running around with a lasso around our necks. So we need to declare what was popularly known in the old days as a Jubilee year, which cancels out all debts for everybody straight across the table. Nobody owes anybody anything. And then we can all get back on our feet and get back to work.
That's straight out of the Bible, isn't it?
Yes, it is. That's what King David and King Solomon used to do in the olden days, whenever the bankers would get the public in such a predicament that they owed them money.
Well, that's interesting. You know, the novel I wrote 45 years ago about hemp being legalized in America, about marijuana being legalized in America, 46 states. My hero, the star of my books, was Solomon. And matter of fact, Solomon's seal, the six-pointed star with a leaf in it, was that was Solomon's seal. That was because he was the largest distributor, manufacturer of marijuana in the country and one of the country's wealthiest men.
Right. Well, you know, Clayton, this dark force power that's ruling this country and taking over practically all the globe, they have a funny way of adopting for their own symbols these popular ancient signs like the Star of David, the Pyramid of Giza with the eyeball at the top. I've seen that all over the Facebook, and you know, they got the devil standing by it or looking down on it from the top of it. And they go, "This is the devil's eyeball." It's not the devil's eyeball, you clowns. You haven't. They've taken everything and twisted it around for their own devising. But all these are symbols. All these are good signs from the olden days, and all these are going to be brought back to be acknowledged as what they actually were.
Well, again, David, in my novels, the lead character, Solomon, all the Christians moved to the 4 states that still have all the laws against drugs, where they were putting people in prison for coming across the state with a joint. And my character, Solomon, was thought by the Jews to be the Messiah. He was thought by the Christians to be the Antichrist. And I guess the hook is that he was both. But he was actually on our side. He you know, and even my Lucifer novels, that I've got a screenplay up. You can read it up on my website, freeamerican.com. Even the story of Lucifer, and it started as a short story called The Future Past. Lucifer was demonized and turned into the devil by the Catholic Church, the same people that we're prosecuting now and trying to arrest and trying to stop this whole pedophilia. They're the bad guys.
Well, it's kind of interesting. I've studied it somewhat in depth on my own over the years about the Luciferian proclamation, and that happened a long time ago. But what I've read is that Satan, who is not Lucifer, is just another demon, so to speak. He was given the power to take care of this planet that we're on, and the Luciferian doctrine and whatnot spanned many different planets and in time and space, and was an occurrence that happened long, long before the earth came up into popular consideration, and Satan was appointed over it. But there's so much of the story that's untold that people don't have a clue to. It's really amazing in this day and age. I mean, people still think that Adam and Eve were the first people to set foot on this planet. I got kicked
out of Sunday school for asking the Sunday school teacher who did Cain and Abel marry? Where did they come from?
They can't answer that. They don't even know. And you know, and it's funny, Clayton, you know, just to about this doctrine, how all the different religions of the world, whether it's the Mayans or the Chinese or the Christians, we've all got this serpent in our religion. And you know where the serpent came from? It's the reptiles, the reptilians that came on this planet about 13,000 BC and infiltrated all of our different religious hierarchies and rewrote our Bible, and rewrote parts of it anyway. And like I said, they infiltrated the different religions around the world. And every one of them has in their ancient stories about a reptile that supposedly comes into the play in the story and messes everything up. And that's exactly what's happened to the Christian religion. They believe in Adam and Eve and a serpent that got Eve to eat an apple, which is absolutely a crock of baloney.
Well, let me ask you this. Why would God, if that's what he was, why would God not want Adam and Eve to know the difference between good and evil? Why would he not want them to have that knowledge? Perhaps because he was evil. So we could have, maybe Lucifer came in and said, wait a minute, man, you know, you need to know what's going on here. Here, smoke this. This will wake you up. This will educate you. You know.
Well, the story that I've read that makes the most sense to me is from the Urantia book. And that says that Adam and Eve came onto an entirely populated planet here, and they raised up 75 boys and 75 girls before Eve decided on her own to go and have sexual intercourse with a neighboring Andite leader in order to step up to their population. And in doing so, she negated their covenant with the creative powers, and so they had to leave the Garden of Eden. And then they were subjected to the same woes that every other human is. They grew old and they deteriorated with time. But it was Eve's miscarriage of what their covenant was that actually caused the problems. They were put here at the time to raise up an entire city of children and then interbreed with the populace in order to step up their understanding of just what was going on.
Or maybe they were genetically modified to a certain extent to be good slaves. Don't rebel against your masters. Be good slaves and work those gold mines, work those fields, grow those drugs, and give it to us as offerings. I mean, if you think about it, David, every point on the globe that is creating drugs, they're the side of the pyramids, they're the side of advanced civilizations. So, you know, maybe we were just colonized by interstellar drug dealers.
Well, we could have been, Clayton, but another interesting point here that I've always thought about is what I was raised to believe is on this planet we have free will. That means that everybody, man, woman, and children, can decide for yourself what you're going to believe, what you're going to do, how you're going to treat your neighbor, and that's kind of a test of the individual beings that incarnate here, is to see just whether they're going to be good, bad, or indifferent.
That's right. You've got the choice. You got free will. You can choose whether you want to be good or evil. And I believe there ain't no such thing as the original sin. When you're born, when you're a baby, you know the difference between good and evil. You know if your mother loves you and is taking care of you. Sure. You know if you do something wrong. You know.
Well, and if you don't know, you're going to find out afterwards that it hurt a lot of people and that it's not a good thing to repeat. And if you do that again and again and again, you're one evil son of a bitch, you know. But that's what a lifetime is for. So it gives us the opportunity to repent and to change our ways after we've seen it wreak all kinds of disaster by our own choosing. But we're given this opportunity to repent and to change our ways and to make amends and to, you know, straighten out our own existences if we will. But so many people nowadays are drugged up with alcohol and every other kind of imaginable drug, and that's the way that the dark forces are trying to take control, is by getting everybody, you know, whacked out on whatever they can get into their system. So they don't have that free choice anymore to live and learn.
That's right, and if you do these addictive drugs, you get strung out, whether it's alcohol, tobacco, cocaine, heroin, whatever. You have forfeited your free will. You've forfeited your choice.
Your rights. But you know, Clayton, about marijuana only heightens your senses, your sensitivity. It heightens your awareness. It makes you put yourself in a psychological position where you think, if it's not good for the other, it's not good for me. You really do think about this when you are under the influence of marijuana. And that's what made all the people in the 60s and 70s sit back and smile and pass the joint around, because they believed in sharing. They started to care for each other rather than what way you get when you get all boozed up on alcohol.
And we stopped a war. I made a living selling, back in the 60s, selling peace symbols. Peace on earth, peace on the flag. I sold that to Kmart's. I sold it to Spencer's Gifts. I sold it to Walmart.
Yeah.
I put in racks of peace symbols, patches and stickers. We stopped the war, and then I helped finance Jack Harrow while he wrote Emperor Wears No Clothes. You can read that on my website, freeamerican.com, right now. What's happened in Colorado is the brightest spot, and the lawyer that I just had on is saying, wait a minute, they're still trying to tax you. That's where this is what happened to the whole billion-dollar industry. They taxed it out of existence back in the 30s. And they used William Randolph Hearst's newspaper, which should have been printed on hemp paper, but he'd rather support the lumber industry, cut down all of our trees. And the Encyclopedia Britannica for 100 years was printed on hemp paper. That's where we need to go back.
Taxing is a more than obvious methodology that they use to curtail something getting started. They tax it. They put restrictions on it. They put an age limit on it. It's all these cumbersome legal rules that really are messing up anything that could happen that's good. And that's just another government tactic to confound something that's working.
Yes, sir. You're correct on that. The whole taxing thing, that's, again, Ayn Rand. I quoted Ayn Rand a couple of times. Government has no control over honest citizens, so they got to make criminals out of us. If you didn't pay your tax, if you didn't pay your fair share of abuse, hey, we can put you in jail. I was in jail with the people that were protesting the taxes 45 years ago.
I've always thought, Clayton, that the main things like marijuana sales shouldn't be taxed at all. There should be no tax on those products, because that's something that everybody should have, everybody should be using for medicinal as well as recreational. And because you can wake up the next day and feel perfectly normal and go back to work, there should be no tax on it. I don't understand why we have to have a tax on everything we buy other than food. You know, it's just, it's unbelievable. Clothing, And housewares, everything's taxed nowadays.
Well, that needs to stop. It needs to come to a screeching halt.
Exactly. We don't even need a federal tax.
And you know, again, I've told Obama, tear down that wall between us and Mexico, because you're not putting that fence up to keep the Mexicans out, obviously. You're putting it up to keep us in. You don't want us going to Mexico. If you do, like the sergeant, the Marine, they arrested him and put him in jail for going over there with something that was legal in his trunk.
Well, Jesse's enjoying half his year down there, and actually I'm looking forward to when Mexico might be 51 and Canada might decide to be 52 states in the United States. It'd just be the spreading of a good thing, and the way to do things. If we could just get this next election in hand. And I want to thank you for all the work you do each and every day here. It's a thankless job at the moment, but one of these days you might find that all this time, energy, and effort really did pay off for all of us.
We certainly hope so, and you can help folks. You can make a donation at freeamerican.com. And yeah, I know it's tight. I know it's you don't want to do that, but what are you giving up? A 6-pack?
Hey, it's all tax deductible too. You know, it's all charity. So I tell everyone I know to. I give them your name and I say, listen in and listen up and throw them a few bucks, whatever you can afford.
Well, hopefully we will do that. Certainly could use it today. I got my motorcycle out of the shop, but I borrowed $1,000 to do that, so I got to pay that back.
Well, congratulations, Clayton. I'm going to send you $50 today because I got my paycheck last night.
All right, that's wonderful. I can certainly use it because my PayPal account has been zipped over the last few days. We've maxed it out, and so I really appreciate that, David.
I will. I promise you, as soon as I get off the air here.
Yeah, matter of fact, there's something I want to do. If you do that, I can go get in the the Shrimp Fest here in Seadrift, Texas. June 13th and 14th. The gates open Friday at 3 p.m., Saturday at 8 a.m. And tonight we got Southern Drive, and we got karaoke, and we got all kinds of things happening. And I'm kind of hungry for some shrimp.
Well, hey, at least down there in the Gulf, you got the good stuff. You know, that's where the best shrimp and
yeah, that's I think that's what Seadrift is noted for, is the shrimp. So we got Shrimp Fest here, and hey, we're out of time. God bless you all. Thank you, David. See you soon.
All right, brother.
Bye-bye.
Bye.